Tesla earnings are always the most anticipated or among the most anticipated for every single earnings season, and that was this earnings season as well. Tesla numbers are out. The conference call is done now at this point in time. I've got a lot of important things to take you through in this one here today, okay? We're going to speak about the important numbers that everybody missed that I'm going to show you in this video here today. The second thing we're going to speak about is major comments Elon Musk made on the conference call, and I'm talking these are fundamentally changing comments in regards to Tesla's future here and what they're planning on doing. I mean, we're talking about changes in billions of dollars of capex here, and so this is major changes on several different fronts. And so we'll speak about that, what Elon Musk is talking about in that conference call. I got 16 different points to kind of take you through that I thought were very important talked about on that conference call. Then we'll speak about how me as a Tesla shareholder, right, I went into this with 1,700 shares in the public account plus shares in the Patreon portfolio. We'll talk about how I felt about this earnings overall, so we'll discuss all that as well. Google reported earnings after the bell. Just quickly here, Google, that was a grade A income statement. You expect nothing less than Google, right? Great earnings. Google stock's a buy. Yeah, now valuation metrics. They obviously have the cloud business. They have Android. They have obviously Google search, right? They have Google AI now, and then they additionally have YouTube, and they have some other products as well. But that's the core of their business. Google is looking really good, but we're going to focus on Tesla in this video. Just thought it would be weird if I didn't at least mention Google in this one here today, folks. Appreciate everybody joining me as always. New all-time high subscribers in the history of the channel. Appreciate each and every one of you. If you're looking to take your investing game up to the next level, you can apply to join my private stock group. That will be the pinned comment down there. Access all my best course curriculums as well as the 6- and 7-figure Discord chat and the Tesla chat. Let's get into this. By the way, if you're wondering why I'm talking a little quiet in this video, it's because my 2-year-old is sleeping in the room next to me, and I'm telling you, if he wakes up early from his nap, it's going to be WW3 in here, okay? It's going to be crazy. Alrighty, so Tesla in regards to the numbers, all right? We have a lot of rough numbers here and 2 really good numbers. So let's be crystal clear. Let me be crystal clear. This is a grade D income statement. This is a grade D income statement, no doubt about it. It's not good. With that being said, it's certainly not the worst I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of F grades in my time. This is not an F grade. This is a D grade income statement. Automotive revenues were down 7% year over year, which doesn't really come as a surprise, to be honest, from just about anybody out there. Every Tesla bull, we all obviously keep track of the delivery numbers, the production numbers. We all knew roughly what ASPs were going to be, so automotive revenues being down about 7% doesn't really come as a surprise to anybody. I think most people were kind of in the 5 to 8% range as far as that goes. Now, you want to be bullish about something? Look at energy generation storage revenue. And Elon Musk had some big comments around this business that I'll share with you in just a moment. Energy generation and storage revenue was up 100% year over year. The business doubled on a year over year basis. Also, services and other revenue. I keep talking about this business line. I've been talking about it for a year or two now. This is going to become huge. Not a lot of people pay attention to this business line right now, but I'm telling you, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, everybody is going to be talking about the services, no different than everybody talks about Apple services nowadays. Apple services was like, everybody brushed off to the side for the longest time until really like the past, I would say 2 years, and now Apple services, everybody talks about it all the time, right? It gets more talk than iPhone even, right? And that business grew 21% on a year-over-year basis. Don't be surprised if next quarter you see even another bump up in numbers, because a lot of this was free trials for the new FSD, and I think you're going to get a lot of conversions to paying customers in the next quarter. So yeah, my expectation is that will increase in terms of the growth rate there. Total revenue is up 2%. Total gross profit up 1%. Obviously, for Tesla standards, those are pathetic numbers, which once again does not come as a surprise to any Tesla bull. We all knew this was going to be a horrible quarter in regards to revenues and gross profit, right? We don't expect that obviously to be the situation long term, but it is a situation we're going through right now. Operating expenses up 39%. So you don't want to see operating expenses up 39% when your revenue was up 2%. That's going to kill your profitability, right? And sure enough, it did. Income from operations was down 33% year over year, right? Operating margin was down 333 basis points, which is just a fancy way of saying 3.3%. Adjusted EBITDA was down 21%, 426 basis points, just a fancy way of saying 4.26 percentage points. Net income attributable to shareholders on a GAAP basis, generally accepted accounting principles, down 45%, and on a non-GAAP basis, down 42%. EPS on a GAAP basis, down 46%, and then on a non-GAAP basis, down 43%. Trash numbers, it's what we expected. Just that energy business is booming, man, absolutely booming. Now, if we look here, we all know the problem in regards to Tesla, in regards to the last couple quarters. It was Model 3 and Model Y production, right? No doubt about it, that was down 16% year over year, and those are the two big volume vehicles. So although other model production was up 24%, and by the way, that's where you're going to see a lot of growth for Tesla. What's in that category? S, X, and Cybertruck. So remember, Cybertrucks hasn't even gone into major production yet, right? The first 6 months of this year, which is what they've been reporting, right? That's all the ramp period for Cybertruck. We still have the big Cybertruck numbers coming in the back half of this year, and then certainly in 2025 and 2026 as they get cheaper models in the market. The big days of Cybertruck numbers are coming. They're coming, folks, okay? We haven't even seen that yet. Just wait on it. Total production now 14% for the company year over year. By the way, recent China numbers are looking very promising for the company now. Now, this was a number I was disappointed in personally. I was expecting better than this right here. Total end of quarter operating lease vehicle count was only up 2% year over year. I expected better than that. It looks to me like just a lot of people that might want to get a Tesla are just looking from the perspective of buying right now because of probably the tax credit, because of how much Elon and the team has decided to discount. And so I think that's why that number is kind of disappointing right now. Whenever Tesla goes back up on price and whenever, if ever, let's say tax incentives are taken away, then maybe at that point in time, we see leasing going up quite substantially. Global vehicle inventory days of supply was up 13% on a year-over-year basis. It was up to 18 days of supply versus 16 days of supply in the same quarter last year. Tesla locations up 20%, mobile service fleet up 7%. The fleet keeps growing bigger and bigger and bigger, right? We're going to need more mobile service folks. We're going to need more supercharging stations, supercharging connectors, and sure enough, supercharging stations 23%, supercharging connectors up 24%. And remember, very important here, right? Very important everybody remembers this because everybody gets so caught up in the short term, and the bears only talk about, the short term. If the bears will focus on the short term if it's convenient to kind of their narrative at that particular time, right? And so, listen, the supercharging revenue and opportunity is absolutely massive. Let's not forget that over the past 6 to 12 months, basically every single major OEM out there has signed up to basically utilize Tesla's supercharging network. And Tesla's supercharging connector and the whole network is going to be basically like a utility for all of electric vehicles for much of the world and certainly in North America, right? So this is something that I think, gets bypassed right now, but let's not forget, we're going EV over this next decade. We're going EV whether you like it or not. We're going there. And when you go there, who's going to be the utility? It's going to end up being Tesla, right? And so that's why you got to always view Tesla as much more than just an automaker. They're also a technology company. They're also going to be a robo-taxi company, right? Which is going to put them competitive with like a Uber and Lyft and those sorts of companies. You got to consider them as a utility because of the supercharging business, right? And then the energy business as well. You also should consider them in the AI game as well with self-driving, right? So don't ever view Tesla as just one thing because there's a lot of things, just to be honest. And you don't get to this sort of market cap and this sort of success without being a lot of things. Now, this is very important. They show FSD version 12 as far as the amount of miles has skyrocketed here recently. And then also this shows you here Tesla AI training capacity ramp through the end of the year. H100, that's NVIDIA's very advanced chip there, right? They have a new one coming out, Blackwell. It's going to be even more advanced, but H100 equivalent GPUs and existing capacity for those have obviously gone up substantially, but they're planning out massive, more new planned capacity over the remainder of this year, which is very bullish for NVIDIA. Don't expect any let up in NVIDIA's numbers anytime soon because Tesla's ordering as many chips as they can get their hands on. They're going to be ordering a ton of chips next year, a very high probability. And then obviously you got the Metas and the Googles and all those guys ordering a ton of chips as well. So very, very bullish in regards to NVIDIA. Now, this is huge, okay? So look at non-automotive gross profit. I mean, it is flying. We're flying in regards to this one. The non-automotive side of the business is really showing strength right now. And I understand the automotive side is in a bad place in the short term, which, by the way, very recently is starting to show some trends of stability and growing from here. But the non-automotive side of the business is really finally getting its time to shine. This business has been, the non-automotive side has been disrespected for years. Even somebody that's bullish on the stock and been bullish for a long time, right? I've even disrespected the business. I haven't talked about it nearly enough. You can watch my videos talking about Tesla all the way back to 2018, 2019. I really only focused on automotive, right? The services opportunity and the energy business opportunity is massive. The non-automotive side of the business is crazy. And so it's great to see this business finally getting some respect, finally getting some limelight here, right? Incredible. Energy storage deployments is through the roof. Absolutely through the roof. And once again, I got some big comments from Elon Musk in regards to that business, right? Look at this. So this shows you over time the market share of battery electric vehicles, essentially, right? And it's absolutely incredible because China and the rest of the world, right, they were kind of in lockstep for much of 2020 and prior to that, right? But recently, China's just taken a massive advantage. And, like I tell you guys, if you go to China and you want to buy a new vehicle, you buy an electric vehicle. If you go to buy a new vehicle and it's non-electric, people are looking at you like, what are you doing? That's where we're going in the United States. That's where Europe's going over the next 5 years, where eventually it's going to get to the point where if you're not buying an electric vehicle, if you're buying a vehicle that doesn't drive itself, people are going to look at you like, oh. And it's a new vehicle? Like used vehicles, people will understand. But a new vehicle? You're really going to do that? That's crazy, right? And so that's the route that's happening there. China's the leader, man. And they're beating us to the punch in regards to that, right? Now, Tesla had some pictures they wanted to show. Gigafactory Texas is their South Expansion data center. Man, looks beautiful. I gotta say, they do a good job. Corpus Christi Lithium Refinery. They're talking about starting production in 2025. There's a lot of great drone videos out there in regards to this. Is a very nice drone picture they took there. They show Cybertruck coatings shop. And then I thought this was interesting because if you guys don't know, Tesla's getting very aggressive in regards to the interest rates they're offering for their vehicles. 1.99% APR available for all Model Y trims in the US through August 31st. Now, that was one of those things you looked at, and a few years ago, let's say 3-4 years ago, it would have been like, no big deal, 1.99%. No one would have made a big deal about that. With interest rates where they're at, this is a huge deal. And so this just goes to the brutality, the absolute brutality of trying to compete with Tesla right now, where they've obviously dropped price significantly. You have the tax credits there, and you have the interest rates. I just don't think a lot of people are educated, unfortunately, about all this, and that gets into the advertising component of Tesla, which we'll get into in just a moment, because Elon Musk was asked directly about advertising, what they're up to there, and I'll tell you kind of what he was saying, right? Now, this is crazy. This is crazy, okay? Look at this. Optimus is supposedly handling battery cells. Now, how much battery cells is Optimus handling? I don't know. And by the way, Elon Musk had some crazy comments in regards to Optimus as well. But it is just crazy to see Optimus actually doing anything useful at this stage, right? I mean, I'm actually shocked and surprised that Optimus would be able to do anything useful at this point in time. This early on is definitely bullish. I will say that. Megapack, they're showing off a great facility here. Beauty. That's an absolute beauty there. Now, I thought this was important. The cash load's at an all-time high. Look at this. They're up to nearly $31 billion. Billion dollars of cash equivalents, and investments. Oh my gosh. The question is, what should they do with all that money? And I asked that on X. I said, what should they do with all that money? Some people said, they should use it on a small buyback. I don't agree with that. Although Elon and the team might feel like the stock's undervalued, I don't think they should use it on a buyback. And the people said they should just keep it around for a rainy day. I don't think that's a bad idea. And the people said they should continue to use that money to invest in the business. I think they're going to be able to continue to take cash flow from operations to really invest back into the business. I don't think they really need to worry about pulling any sorts of large amounts of money out of that cash and cash equivalents to go spend on the business. As far as buying out another company, I can't picture them buying out anything big. Maybe like some tuck-in acquisitions if it made sense. But Tesla just likes to do a lot of things in-house. So if anything, they could use more of that capital to, just continue to be as streamlined of a business as possible, right? And control as much of the supply chain as they can possibly control, because we know they love to control every element that goes into a Tesla. Somebody else suggested that they pay that money out to Elon rather than issuing shares for this $56 billion pay package. Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. Like, you want to keep a good amount of money around, a war chest of money, right? So yeah, big time. We're on our way and we're making it big time. Who sang that song? Okay, so this was the first. There's 16 big things that Elon Musk said on the conference call, in my opinion. This is 10 in the first 10 minutes. These are 10 things that were said in the first 10 minutes. So this was just Elon Musk talking. The other ones are when the Q&A started and he was actually asked questions. This was Elon Musk talking. He says, EV competition has come, right? But he says they're not doing well. Outside of China, a few manufacturers in China, everybody else is doing bad. And he's saying, these other companies are having a discount, which puts pricing pressure, obviously, on the whole industry, right? Which I heard that, and then I also said, well, Elon, I think you're also putting pricing pressure on the entire industry, so I don't think we can blame it on them. I think, you're part of this as well, if not more than anybody. But as far as, he's 100% right. The EV competition has come, and they're failing miserably. I mean, absolutely. The only company in the world, the only company outside of China that's doing decent in EVs, and keyword is decent, I wouldn't even say they're doing great, they're doing decent, is Rivian. No one else is doing good. Ford, GM, VW, none of those guys. None of the big automakers or the upstarts are doing good. Rivian's the only one doing decent outside of China. And then obviously there's Tesla, right? So yeah, I thought that was an interesting kind of tone to start on. He talks about there's going to be a more affordable model, let's call it the Model 2, in the first half of 2025, which is very, very exciting. And what does that mean for growth rates? Well, we're going to have to see the vehicle, right? I'm assuming they're going to show those off. They're going to show that vehicle off in October. That's my assumption. But that's very exciting. I think it's going to be a two-seat vehicle. That's been my opinion for years. People have always disagreed with me on that. That's my opinion. We'll see. We'll see if I end up being right or wrong in regards to that, right? Third thing up, Optimus. He talked about that in the first 2 minutes, which I thought was important because it shows how much Optimus is really on his mind. And Elon Musk is completely convinced Optimus is bigger than really anything the company has going on today. And that's fascinating because you think about how big their auto business opportunity is, how big the energy business opportunity is, how big the services opportunity is, right? And how big these businesses already are, never mind where they're going over time. The supercharger opportunity. I mean, you think about all this, right? And you let all that sit in, the robo-taxi opportunity, and it really sounds like he's 100% convinced that Optimus is the biggest opportunity for the company. So he was talking about that right off the bat. Elon Musk talked about how amazing full self-driving is, which is pretty darn amazing, right? Not perfect yet, but getting there. And he says about to get, basically kind of led on that it's going to get a lot better very soon here. 1010 confirmed October 10th, 2024 will be the robotaxi event. Elon Musk said we will show off a couple of other things also. What are they going to show off? He's talking about they're going to show off a couple other things, right? He says they moved the event back so everything could be, basically everything could be super on point. And then it also sounds like because he wanted to show off these other things on the same day, that I think that's also why he pushed it back, in my personal opinion, right? Now, this is interesting. He says Optimus is already performing tasks in the factory, and that goes back to kind of this picture here, right? There he is, Optimus, right? But it got it more interesting around Optimus from there, because then he talked about Optimus going into limited production the first half of 2025. And I believe he mentioned something around could produce 1,000 or a few thousand units in the first half of 2025. But it sounds like those are mostly going to be in-house units. That's the way it sounded, at least, okay? And so it didn't sound like he's really focused on selling those Optimus units to companies or businesses or things like that. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of Tesla, maybe working around the factories or things like that, right? Maybe learning. And then he also said he expects Optimus to have a production ramp in 2026. Whew. Now, we do know Elon Musk can definitely be aggressive with his timelines. And my hunch is he's probably aggressive with that timeline. I don't think production ramp happens in 2026 for Optimus. My thought is maybe 2027 or 2028. That's kind of my thought there, right? They could probably produce some more units in 2025 and get it learning more, but I feel like they're going to Optimus is going to have to continue to learn and learn and learn, and they'll have to build up a lot more hype to get a lot of customers interested in Optimus to then want to order Optimus. And so I think you're still several years out of that. And plus, I think Tesla's going to have their hands full, man. They're about to have a new affordable vehicle talking about. He's talking about first half 2025 launch, right? And then you're going to have the robo-taxi network start to be built out. I think they're just going to have their hands full for the next 2 or 3 years. And so when I think about Optimus ramping, I'm thinking that's probably closer to a 4-year out. Maybe 3 years at the earliest, but I think that's more to like 4 or 5 years out. That's my personal opinion. But Elon's talking about production ramp 2026. We'll see. Number 9, energy business is growing faster than anything else, Elon Musk says. And it's true, right? And, this is interesting because I remember Elon Musk talking about the energy side of the business years ago. And he was talking about the energy business could be just as big, if not bigger, than the auto business. And they reminded me of very similar comments Jeff Bezos had a long, long time ago about AWS before anybody really cared about AWS or paid attention. And he mentioned that AWS could be just as important as e-commerce business, if not more important, right? And sure enough, that ended up being 100% true. Actually, more of Amazon's value for the company is made up from the AWS component than the e-commerce component, which is crazy and fascinating to think about, right? And so, yeah. And then the 10th thing was right in that first 10 minutes, he says the energy business is limited by production and they're ramping up production as fast as possible in regards to that. So very, very exciting. Now, as far as the Q&A, I thought there were 6 big things that were talked about in there. Okay. So first one up here, they were talking about, he was basically kind of asked about self-driving, and we're talking about full autonomy, right? Full autonomy. And Elon says unsupervised driving, it could possibly be by the end of this year. And when we talk about unsupervised driving, we're talking about there doesn't need to be a human in the front seat. We're talking about the vehicle drives so perfect that you don't need a human in the front seat. And he's talking about that could be by the end of this year. And he says he's shocked if it's not in 2025 at some point. So definitely good in regards to that. And honestly, I feel pretty similar. Seeing how good the self-driving is now, I think we're probably in the next, 6 to maybe 15 months of it being far better than a human driver. I can make an argument that it might already be better than bad drivers, but I'm talking better than even good drivers. I think we're coming upon that very soon. Next one up here. They were asked about 4680 cell production, right? And they were talking about essentially the 4680 cell ramped 51%, if I recall. I believe there was a specific number he mentioned, 51% in Q2 over Q1. So the 4680 cell is definitely ramping very nice. It sounds like that ramp's going well. And it's interesting hearing them talk about the 4680 cell because anytime they talk about 4680 or anything in relation to that, it really comes back to like cost advantages. And you might think, why is it a big deal? It goes way further than just this is going to help Tesla's margins, are going to help Tesla make a bunch more money. That's cool. But the main reason it's so important that 4680 is a major success and helps the company bring down cost in a major way is remember what is pretty much the most costly thing that goes into an electric vehicle, right? It's that battery pack. And remember what's giving EVs the long-term competitive advantage versus ICE vehicles. It's bringing down the cost of the batteries, right? And the technology for that. And so if you look at the last 15 years of EVs versus internal combustion engines, it used to be night and day difference where internal combustion engine vehicles were so cheap compared to EVs when it came to being able to build them, right? And it's because just doing an engine, a traditional engine, was so much more cost effective than battery packs. But there's been a major shift over the past 10 to 15 years where now Tesla has it where basically they can produce a vehicle just as cheap as an internal combustion engine, if not cheaper, right? With obviously way better specs and way better, everything pretty much than an internal combustion engine. But they're not stopping. They're keeping on going in regards to this. And so internal combustion engines are getting more and more expensive. And we have the cost of cell production and everything else going lower and lower. So, which is just another reason why EVs are going to win out over the next decade, right? And that's why, it's just going to be impossible to compete with EVs long term. And so this is very, very important. And you got to understand that component there, right? Elon Musk got asked about Dojo. The first thing he did was he gave big respect to obviously NVIDIA and Jensen, right? From there, he says Dojo can compete with NVIDIA long term, and it has to compete with NVIDIA long term because the demand for NVIDIA's chips is just so insane, and people can't get enough of them, right? Which kind of goes into the whole thought process that NVIDIA is just the king, man, and they just can't be beat right now. Now, I don't feel confident that Dojo's going to be able to really compete with NVIDIA in any major way long term. And the reason being is, even listening to the way Elon Musk answered that question, he had a lack of energy there. He had kind of a lot of uncertainty in his voice and his tonality. And I've been investing for 15 years now. I've listened to thousands of conference calls in my life, literally thousands, right? The amount of times I've listened to Elon Musk talk on conference calls is a ridiculous amount. I can usually tell when Elon's feeling pretty confident or not that confident. And just when he talks about Dojo, there's not confidence there. So when he makes a statement about, we might be able to compete with Dojo long term, I'm not buying it. His tone is not there. His confidence is not there on the subject. You could listen to him talk about Dojo, it's not there, man. And so that was just one thing that I'm just like, that's baloney, that's BS. I don't see this happening. There's no confidence from Elon. There would have to be major changes for the better for Tesla to even give them a chance to ever compete with. And by the way, everybody thinks they can compete with NVIDIA, and yet no one can. Even AMD thinks they can compete with NVIDIA, and they haven't been able to so far, right? Now, Elon Musk got asked about advertising. Now, Elon Musk says, we do some advertising, right? Now, but the issue is, I think a lot of people want Elon and the team to do a lot more advertising. I think they want to see commercials when you sit down for a football game on a Sunday. I think they want to see a lot of commercials. And Elon and the team's just not interested in that. And so I have some thoughts about this. I mean, one is, watch any rap music video released by any big rapper the past 3 to 6 months. And guess what you're going to see? Cybertrucks all over that flip and flapjacking thing. Every celebrity, every person wants to drive a Cybertruck. I mean, the amount of free advertising Tesla gets is just ridiculous. My kids put on a Mr. Beast video, like the latest Mr. Beast video or whatever it was, right? Where he's got like 50 or 100 YouTubers all competing, like big YouTubers competing for $1 million, right? And my kids are watching this, right? And one of the other things they were doing is giving out Cybertrucks. Mr. Beast had a bunch of Cybertrucks all parked there, and if you hit this free throw, you get a Cybertruck to give to one of your fans. I mean, that's the type of stuff I'm talking about. Like, that is advertising. It's just maybe, Tesla's not paying for that, right? It's like free advertising. It's cool. And the issue is, if you start doing a lot of paid advertising, you do start to lose that cool factor. And you start to be viewed a little bit more as a Ford GM. So I think strategically makes sense, but if they expect Tesla to run 1 million commercials on football games, it's just not where Tesla's at. I'm not saying they won't do that 5, 10, 20 years from now, but for today, it just doesn't make sense for them. And I understand it. And I think, you got to understand, when you do all that advertising, it will also impact your margins, right? So there's ways Elon and the team can get the word out about the cost advantages of Tesla, right? The features that Teslas have, the APR that they offer, and things like that. But you just got to do better and better as far as word of mouth, right? Now, additionally, got asked about Gigafactory Mexico, right? And basically, Elon, the gist of it was, Gigafactory Mexico does not make sense if Trump wins the election. And the way Elon Musk broke this down very simply, he said, likely Trump would have big tariffs coming on any vehicles made in Mexico and then would be coming to the U.S., so it wouldn't make sense for us to build a Gigafactory Mexico. Now, if Harris wins the election, don't be surprised if they start building that Gigafactory again. But it sounds like if Trump wins, it's not happening. And it definitely sounds like if Trump wins the election, I would say like 99% sure Elon's not building Gigafactory Mexico anytime soon. So just a little food for thought in regards to that. But, let's say Trump wins and he's there 4 years, right? And then somebody else comes in and they take off the tariffs. Then don't be surprised if all of a sudden 5 years from now, they start building that Gigafactory Mexico again, right? So just a little food for thought in regards to that. Next one up here is, he was asked about GM. I guess GM had a vehicle they were trying to work on. It had no steering wheel, had no gas pedal, and supposedly scrapped all plans for this vehicle, and they blamed regulators, right? Elon Musk says, blaming regulators is a bunch of BS. He's saying they should have just admitted defeat. They can't do it, is what he was saying there, which, yeah, I mean, I just don't see GM as being that sort of game-changing of a company to launch vehicles that don't have steering wheels and gas pedals, things like that. Like, that's Tesla. Like, Tesla's going to do that sort of stuff. Maybe some upstarts are going to do that sort of stuff, but I just don't see companies like GM really competing there, right? Now, how do I feel about being a Tesla shareholder after those earnings, right? So, obviously, I knew the numbers weren't going to be good. Everybody and their grandma should have known the numbers weren't going to be good, right? I felt pretty good about the conference call. I thought it was a pretty good conference call. I'd give it an 8 out of 10. A good conference call, right? I like where the company's headed. I can see all the growth vectors and how they get there over this next couple of years. If we're just talking about like what's happening for the company over the next, like, let's say 2 years, I see how they get there. I see how they're going to launch a more affordable vehicle and continue to bring down costs there. I can see how they can produce that profitably. I can see how they can re-engage excitement around the brand between you got the Cybertruck talk and hype there, right? And then you could compound that with an affordable vehicle in the market. I've been telling you guys this for the past year. You don't want to freaking compete with Tesla over this next few years. No way. I'm just telling you, Tesla's coming for everybody. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Toyota. I don't care if you're Honda. I don't care if you're Ford, GM, give me a break, Volkswagen. I'm telling you, Tesla's freaking coming to eat everybody's lunch. And I don't think anybody's prepared for what's about to happen. When they launch that affordable vehicle with Tesla's brand, do you know how viral that's going to go? Like the amount of virality in that. If you thought Cybertruck was viral, this is like a whole nother level of viralness, right? And so, I mean, this is just going to be incredible. And the revenue growth that company will start putting up. Let's say Elon's wrong about first half production. Let's say they don't produce that affordable vehicle till second half 2025. Let's say, for instance, right? My gosh, the comps they're going to be comping against are going to be so easy. The growth rates are going to be astronomical for the company again, right? And remember, that's going to be the first vehicle that Tesla's ever going to produce that they're going to be able to take around the world. I don't care if it's India. I don't care if it's China. I don't care if it's the US, Canada. I don't care where you're talking. And it's going to sell everywhere. It's going to be their iPhone vehicle. A lot of people thought the Model 3 was iPhone vehicle. This next one is the iPhone vehicle. Cybertruck production getting ramped up is going to be huge for this company. People aren't even, like, they're not even factoring that in. I mean, this is still the most talked about hype vehicle in the world. I was telling you about every big celebrity, entertainer, rapper, whoever, all is flexing Cybertrucks, right? It's the biggest flex. It's bigger flex than a Lambo or Rolls Royce. These guys used to, want to be in Ferraris and Lambos and Rolls Royces. No, it's Cybertruck now. So wait till they get an affordable Cybertruck out there, because most people are paying still like $100,000 for a Cybertruck. Wait till they have Cybertruck at, wait till they have Cybertruck at $60K. Oh my gosh. Night. So, yeah, always a great quote to remember. It's always darkest before the dawn. As I told you guys for the past year, things bottom out first half of 24. They start to get better in the second half of 2024, and then they get even better in 2025. That's where we're headed, folks. Appreciate you joining me as always. Thanks so much for being here. Thank you for being subscribed to the channel. And if you're looking to apply to your own private group, take your investing game up to a much higher level than where you're at, you want to take investing serious, click the pinned comment down there, fill out an application. We'll see if we can get you in the private group this week or next week. Much love and have a great day.